Hey guys, JV here sharing some pretty serious news if you're a Bioware or Mass Effect fan. Bioware has announced that Andromeda has already gotten its final update with patch 1.10, meaning there will be no future patches for single player. Additionally, Bioware confirmed Andromeda will not get any single player DLC. In this video, we'll look at Bioware's official statement and I'll share my thoughts on this whole thing. As always, if you like what I do here and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. We're going to start by reading the Bioware statement, the announcement from top to bottom. No paraphrasing, nothing like that, the exact words that they have. So if you want to read that for yourselves, link is in the description below. Since the release of Mass Effect Andromeda, we've worked hard to address feedback from our community. From improving animations to expanding customization options, we look to respond to your concerns and build on what you loved. With each patch, you let us know we were heading in the right direction, and we're grateful to everyone who joined us on this journey. We're proud of what we created, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. Early in development, we decided to focus on Mass Effect Andromeda's story on the Pathfinder, the exploration of the Andromeda Galaxy, and the conflict with the Archon. The game was designed to further expand on Pathfinder's journey through this new galaxy with story-based Apex multiplayer missions, and we will continue to tell stories in the Andromeda Galaxy through our upcoming comics and novels, including the fate of the Quarian arc. Our last update, 1.10, was the final update for Mass Effect Andromeda. There are no planned future patches for single-player or in-game story content. In the coming weeks, our multiplayer team will provide details of their ongoing support and upcoming content, including new multiplayer missions, character kits, and what's in store for N7 Day. We appreciate all the millions of people who came with us to the Andromeda Galaxy. We hope to see you again in the Mass Effect universe, the Mass Effect Andromeda team. So just going through the major high points here, we see that the stories will continue in the Andromeda Galaxy through upcoming comics and novels. And so this has been confirmed by authors on these books and stuff like that, including the fate of the Quarian arc. And that's the big thing, right? Because a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, have been holding out for Quarian arc DLC. There's a change.org petition, a hashtag that's been going out. I know a lot of dedicated people that were really hoping for that to happen. And that made total and complete sense. We had the transmission at the very end of the game that mentioned the Quarian arc directly, and looking back, they had to have had planned content for that. I just don't see it being explicitly mentioned in the game if the plan was just to share that story in comics and novels. So now I'm curious when they decided to cancel plans for it. My hunch was that we were going to learn about the Quarian arc through multiplayer, but it looks now that it's being confirmed that one of these books is going to tell us what happened to the Quarian arc, and that is disappointing. Not seeing it in the game, not getting to play it out and, really experience it that way is a real shame. Next, we had the confirmation that the last update, 1.10, was the final update for single player for Andromeda. There are no planned future patches for single player or in-game story content. So essentially, that means support for single player is being dropped 100% at this point. There is nothing planned for the future. And the big thing here, once again, is no DLC. This is the final nail in the coffin for those holding on to hope. Whether it was the Quarian arc, DLC related to that, or otherwise, we're just not getting it, and it's really disappointing. We do, however, have confirmation that the multiplayer team will provide details of ongoing support and upcoming content, including missions, character kits, and N7 Day plans, but that is only multiplayer. So if you do play multiplayer and you want to continue to support, this is semi-good news, but if you weren't really interested in multiplayer, then this isn't really consequential. This makes perfect sense to me. As annoying as it might be for those hoping for single player content, they can still profit from the multiplayer mode. It's for the most part already built out, and adding new characters and kits like that doesn't require a lot of resources. So they're not dropping multiplayer. They're maintaining this mode using limited resources, obviously, since they're dropping the rest of it, because they can still make money on it, and it probably doesn't require a ton of work compared to building out single player DLC. So here's my perspective on this thing. Andromeda has had bad news after bad news since it came out. We're talking about facial animations, whether you agreed with that or not, the Kotaku reports, Jason Schreier reporting internal struggles between Bioware and other studios within EA, Bioware Montreal closing, the studio that single-handedly, or for the most part, created Andromeda, and now Andromeda support ending for single player. Generally speaking, it felt like the community thought this was over. Of course, people rallying behind Save the Quarians and whatnot, but in reality, this just snowballed. Bad news after bad news news, it all led to this moment right here. And while I have been skeptical about DLC since the Kotaku articles, I mean, really early on, you can go back and hear me, talk about, is there going to be DLC? We don't really know. The finality of this situation, just knowing this is a decisive, end to wondering if we're going to get something, it feels like a gut punch. I mean, it really hurts. To call Andromeda a monumental failure is sort of an understatement for Bioware fans. Personally speaking, I've been playing the Dragon Age and Mass Effect series games for years. I think I started with Origins, that was my first Bioware game, then I discovered Mass Effect shortly before the second game came out, then I fell in love with Mass Effect. I love it more than Dragon Age at this point, so I definitely lump myself into the category of a Bioware fan. After covering Andromeda for 6 months now, I've seen that we are an incredibly passionate and vocal group, and unfortunately, we were let down from start to finish with Andromeda. And now we are expected to move on, accept this game as a failure, and to give Anthem, Bioware's next huge thing that they're dedicating a lot of time and resources to, a chance. And some are not willing to do any of this, and I totally understand that. I think we all need to come to terms with the fact that Bioware is just not the same company it was 10 years ago. And the Bioware that we know that delivered some of our favorite games was already within EA, so I know a lot of people like to say that EA poisoned Bioware and all of that, when in reality, Bioware and EA have been inseparable since I think it's 2009. Like, they merged a long time ago. So 10 years ago, yeah, but we currently are in a different era of Bioware, and we can tell, from Inquisition to Andromeda. I did like Inquisition, but specifically with Andromeda, we're in a different era here, and we have to decide what that means for us as Bioware fans. And I think most importantly, above all, we need to make it very clear that Andromeda can never happen again from Bioware. Absolutely never again. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the game itself, not from a critical standpoint, like reviewing the game, because we already know how that turned out. We already know how a lot of people feel about the game. It's been out for a long time now, but the way it was handled post-launch. Bioware took this far too long. They strung us along, and then they put the final nail in the coffin 5-6 months after launch. They chose to beat around the bush and not tell us what was going on instead of choosing transparency. And judging by the amount of anger and backlash from Bioware fans that I've been, looking at over the past several months, that was a major mistake on their part, and it's come to a crux here with this news. I mean, people are seriously angry about this. If we as Bioware fans choose to stick around for the next game, which will be Anthem, we will need to prepare ourselves for this in the future. And that sucks to even have to mentally prepare for something like this, but that's the reality we're in now, moving forward, and I'm bitter and disappointed about that. Some have decided to take a step further and boycott Anthem, and that's a position that I respect. I get it, but I personally don't hold it myself. I'm not making excuses for Bioware here, so don't misunderstand me, but failing to put out DLC is not the reason I would boycott them. Perhaps the way they handled it, which is something we've talked about throughout this video, but shipping an unfinished game and spending the last 5 months adding things that should have been there in the first place, now that's a reason I would boycott them. Unfortunately, that's a thing we're kind of used to in 2017. That doesn't make it any better for Bioware to go ahead and go down that route as well, but they really should have delayed the game and polished it before releasing it. In terms of Anthem, ultimately it's a different team, it's a different studio, some of the same people maybe are mixed in there, and hopefully it's a different mindset moving forward, but I'm optimistic. That's just who I am as a person, sometimes to a fault. I will be checking out Anthem regardless of Andromeda's fate. We'll have to see how the comics and novels pan out, but to close out the video, I wanted to briefly touch on the future of Mass Effect. What about the next Mass Effect game? What should we expect? First off, it's gonna be a while, especially after how Andromeda turned out. And it could be a spin-off, it could be an entirely different Mass Effect game, maybe on a smaller scale that could come out sooner, but another mainline Mass Effect game, it's gonna be a long time before we even hear about it. Next, stopping single-player support and putting out 0 DLC is not a good sign for a sequel to Andromeda, at least in my book. Maybe they're not related, but I don't see how they make this decision to drop it entirely and then turn around and start working on a sequel. That's just me, the way I see it, but I do not get that. So if we get another Mass Effect game anytime soon, I don't think it's going to be a sequel to Andromeda. Casey Hudson, who is back at Bioware as GM now, commented on the future of Mass Effect just after the announcement, saying, "I love Mass Effect too much to not want to work on it again in the future." Now that's not a confirmation of anything, but Casey Hudson is an influential guy at Bioware. He's highly regarded around the industry, and now he is GM. That's a very high up position. So if anyone can kind of grease the wheels and get things going, it's him. So we'll have to see. That's it for me, so turning it over to you guys, how do you feel about Andromeda's fate as a whole? Really just air out that dirty laundry in the comment section below. I know some of you are very angry, some of you maybe less so. Let me know how you're feeling after this news in the comment section below. If you stayed till the end and enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content. Check out my latest videos by clicking the links on screen. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.